Hello and welcome to Easy English Talks podcast. We're doing a deep dive today into something I think you're really going to like. We're talking about practical tips to improve your English. You know, those kind of tips that you can actually use in your everyday life instead of just textbook stuff.
Exactly. Because consistent practice, using English in real-world situations, that's what helps you become more fluent. It's not just about the rules. It's about using the language confidently.
Right. So, no more hiding behind those textbooks. Let's get right into it. The sources we're looking at today have so many great strategies to make English a natural part of your day. And honestly, reading through them, I thought, wow, I wish I knew about these sooner.
Well, and what's really interesting is that a lot of these tips are similar to how we learned our first language, just by being constantly exposed to it and by interacting with others.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so first up, setting goals. I was reading this excerpt, I think it was called Eingefügter Text. And it really stressed how important goals are. It even gave some specific examples like, oh, learning 5 new words every day or trying to have at least 15 minutes of conversation practice in English. What do you think about those goals? Are they realistic for someone who has a job, maybe a family, and let's be honest, wants to watch some Netflix too?
Well, it depends, doesn't it? I mean, everyone's different. 5 new words might be easy for one person, but feel like way too much for someone else. What's important is to find goals that push you a little, but are still doable, so you don't give up.
I like that, yeah. Challenging but achievable. So maybe it's not even about a specific number of words, but just making sure you're coming across new vocabulary regularly.
Exactly. And that actually leads perfectly to the next tip, making English a regular part of your routine, almost like it's in the background. So you could listen to podcasts during your commute, or switch your phone's language to English, or even watch your favorite shows with English subtitles.
Oh yeah, I heard about that subtitle thing. But does it really work? It's so easy to just focus on what's happening on screen and not even pay attention to the words.
You're right, it's not some kind of magic solution. But even if you're not actively trying to understand every word, your brain is still picking things up. The
Hmm.
sounds, the way sentences are structured. It's like you're preparing your brain for fluency without even realizing it.
Like planting little English seeds that'll grow into, like a
Oh,
fluency tree.
right.
I love that. Okay, but now for a tip that's a little bit more daring. The sources talk about talking to yourself in English, describing your day, what you're cooking, even having like imaginary conversations. I don't know about you, but I think I'd feel a bit silly doing that. Does it actually help?
I know it sounds strange, but think about it this way. You're practicing speaking, but without being afraid of anyone judging you. You can try out different expressions, work on how you pronounce things, and get more fluent at your own pace. And the best part, no one's there to correct you if you mess up.
That's true. It's like having a personal English tutor who's always there for you and never gets annoyed at your grammar mistakes. Okay, yeah, I can see how that could help with confidence.
And confidence is so important when you're learning a language. The more comfortable you feel speaking, the more you'll practice, and the quicker you'll improve.
Okay, so we've got goal setting, making English a part of our lives, and conquering our fear of speaking by, well, chatting with ourselves. Hopefully not too loudly in public, though.
Mm.
What else did our sources have to say?
Speaking of confidence, the sources we looked at also talk about how important it is to have a good foundation in reading and writing. And you don't have to, read super difficult books to do that. Even short things like writing down your thoughts in a journal or commenting on social media or even just writing emails in English, that can make a big difference.
I could see how that would help with grammar and stuff, but sometimes writing just feels like a chore. Any tips on how to make it more fun?
Oh, for sure. I think the most important thing is to choose things you're actually interested in? So instead of forcing yourself to read boring textbooks, you could try reading blogs about your hobbies or articles about what's happening in the world, or even get lost in some fan fiction. If you like what you're reading, you'll want to keep doing it.
Totally. It's like choosing between eating plain broccoli and having a delicious dessert. You're way more likely to go back for more dessert.
Speaking of delicious things, let's talk about learning new words. One of the sources suggested this visual thing where you label stuff around your house with sticky notes. So, imagine your kitchen counter with notes that say coffee maker, toaster, refrigerator. It sounds a little bit crazy, don't you think?
I mean, yeah, it might look a bit strange,
Yeah.
but using visuals can actually be a really good way to remember things. When you see a word connected to a real object every day, it kind of sticks in your brain better. But the real trick is to not just label things, but actually try to use those words in sentences.
Mm.
Oh, I see. So instead of just memorizing the word refrigerator, I should try making sentences like, I need to clean out the refrigerator, or the refrigerator's making a weird noise, something like that.
Exactly. You're connecting the word to a real situation. And speaking of that, you know what else can be really helpful? Language learning apps like Duolingo or Babbel. They have structured lessons and exercises that help you use new words in different ways. Plus, they often have game-like features, which can make learning more fun.
I've heard about those, but I've always been a bit skeptical. Are they really that good? Or are they just like fancy flashcards?
They can definitely be more than just flashcards if you use them the right way. They give you a structured way to learn, track how you're doing, and give you feedback that's tailored for you.
Mm,
Obviously, they're not the same as actually talking to people, but they can be a really good addition to what you're already doing to learn English. You should try out a few and see which one you like best.
good idea.
Yeah.
It's all about finding what works for you, right? Okay, so this next tip is interesting. The sources talk about creating what they call English-only zones in your life. What exactly does that mean?
It's basically about intentionally making spaces or times in your day where you're surrounded by English as much as possible. So, for example, maybe you decide that during your morning commute, you only listen to English podcasts or audiobooks, or you choose a specific room in your house where you only speak, read, and listen to things in English.
So it's like creating a little England in your own life, even if you can't actually go there.
Yeah, exactly. You're immersing yourself in the language. It kind of forces your brain to think in English, even if it's just for a short amount of time. And that can really help you learn faster.
I can see how that would push you to, like, get out of your comfort zone and make those brain connections happen faster. Okay, we've talked about a lot of things, from setting goals to making English a part of our everyday lives to using visuals, trying out apps, and even making our own little English bubbles. What else did our sources say before we finish up?
You know, one thing the sources all agreed on was to make sure you're celebrating your progress as you go. Learning a language, it takes time, right? It's not a race. So it's important to look back and be proud of what you've accomplished, even the small things.
Yeah, I think that's so important. It's easy to get focused on what you still don't know
Yeah.
and forget about how much you've already learned. But even learning one new word or being able to have a little conversation in English, those are things to celebrate.
Exactly. Every little step helps you keep going, keeps you motivated. So make sure you keep track of how far you've come. Give yourself a little reward every now and then. You're putting in the work, you deserve a pat on the back.
So basically, be patient with yourself, enjoy the process, and celebrate those little wins. And hey, if talking to your toaster in English helps you learn a new word, go for it, right?
Uh-huh. Exactly. The most important thing is to find what works for you. Try different things, see what you like, and most importantly, make sure you're having fun while you're learning.
All right, so there you have it. We've looked at a ton of tips for improving your English, tips that are practical and fun, and yeah, maybe even a little bit quirky. Just remember, be consistent, and even the smallest actions can make a huge difference over time.
And if you only remember one thing from this whole deep dive, let it be this. Challenge yourself to try just one new tip from this episode every day. You might surprise yourself with how much progress you make.
We're definitely cheering you on. And be sure to follow for more deep dives into the world of language learning. Happy practicing.